All right, welcome everybody to this afternoon or evening session, wherever, depending where you are. Really happy to have Emily Phillips as a guest speaker with us today. I think it's going to be a really good hour, very informative hour. And I think I would also like it to be really just a casual hour and just lots of Q&A and just open up and whatever you think about your music experience, or if you could just open that up and explore different ideas. So just to give a little bit of introduction, we were sharing a studio on one side and Emily was in the other studio, and we were doing different projects. Fast forward to today, Emily is involved in a lot of different things, very interesting things, and she's signed to Primary Wave in the US, which is probably iconic independent publisher for music, and lots of working with lots of different artists, from Florence and the Machine and John Newman, etc. And she also gives a lot of talks about music, and she loves to give talks, I think. Hence, she's here today to share her experience with us. So I'm just going to kick straight off and not waste any more time. Do you want to maybe expand a little bit on that, Emily? And then I'll just also ask a few questions after.
I think I want to be helpful to everybody because we're all in this crazy thing together, writing songs and trying to express ourselves as best we can. So my journey is different because no two journeys are alike in music. So as a summary, I can say I've been writing songs nearly every day for crying out loud, 20 years, and professionally, so to speak, for about 15. And my life is one giant song, which is a sort of form of madness, as I think you all know, like to the extent I might wander around muttering in tongue, trying to figure out a lyric or whatever, wake up in the night resolving a pre-chorus. But also, when I meet grown-ups my age who have proper jobs, that is when I really realise how mad this life is. But there is beauty in it, and it's exciting, and I feel very, grateful to do what I do. Anyway, so this is my recording studio. I share it with my husband. He's a producer, and we have artists here every day. Sometimes I work in other studios. And I just jump around according to what's going on with the diary, where my manager or publisher help me find and source the best projects I can possibly write for. I don't know if anyone wants to ask a question, but that's pretty much what I do. And yeah, it's a very mixed bag. So I don't really know where to start, but maybe a question will prompt one corner of the woods, or I can keep talking if you like.
Yeah, Emily, I have a question.
Yes.
So basically, I'm wondering, I'm at a point where I have lots of content, I'm getting demos together, and I just don't know how to get my foot in the door with a publisher. I did speak to somebody recently about it, and they said you kind of have to have a name for yourself and be established and have like one or two pieces of work that I've done well. But I don't really understand how the pieces of work can do well when you haven't already got a foot in the door, do you know?
Yes, I think to be as prolific as possible is the only answer to that. So if you're proud of a song, play it to people, send it to people. The songs that go places are the ones when people say, hey, have you heard this? Because as we write so many songs, only few of them are really the ones you want other people to hear. But if you have any of those, maximize the way you're networking those songs, because an opportunity can come from anywhere and it's impossible to predict. My first break, I was in Camden Lock Market changing in a changing room, and I got a phone call from a friend who had sent a song of mine to an Italian Renault Clio advert and they were using the song. That was a break out of nowhere. I didn't even know he had the song, let alone knew someone in Milan. So the point is, you cannot tell where things, and that's the magic, and things do happen. So just, I know it's annoying to hear this, but just trust in the way the world works. Keep sending out, cross hatching all your contacts, and be persistent and follow up. Obviously put stuff out on Spotify too, or YouTube, or however you want to put stuff out, TikTok. We have these formats. I really can't say any more than that in terms of you know, trying to find an opportunity that is a break, because there isn't an answer. Does everyone agree with that? If there's a nod, I feel like it would be great if there was a book that said do
yes,
this.
Emily, I agree with you.
Yeah.
I think that
Go on. Does Renisha want to say something? Renisha.
yes, I think that nowadays it's a little bit easier to kind of get out there than it was at one point. I actually do digital media promotions. If anybody wants to talk to me about that, I can probably help you get what you need from that experience or what you're looking for.
That's really helpful, because you could now connect with, was it, I can't remember the name of the person who asked that question just now, because I've got so many names on the screen. But I think this format is vital, because that question and that answer from Renisha is already a way forward, because it's all in the connections, and that's how things actually get done and get made. So that's fantastic, and I think you two should have a conversation and share your songs and your means of helping each other.
Yeah, sure. I'm gonna put my Instagram down here at the bottom if you guys want to add me.
Great. So yeah, I think persistence, I mean, you can imagine doing this for as long as I've done it. I mean, there have been ups and downs to the extent that I have been ecstatic and absolutely devastated. In fact, this continues to happen on a weekly basis. I've tried to rationalize, but when you care about what you write, and if you believe in what you're doing, the highs and the affirmations go a long way. Even if it's an email saying, wow, that can keep me feeling, I mean, it's pathetic. I feel like I'm as unevolved as a worm to say this, that I might depend on an email to feel good. But the thing is, there are huge highs and lows, and that is how it is, whether you are super successful or if your first song gets noticed. Because if you're creative, that's what matters. It's not actually the success in itself or what that value is. It's the feeling that what you're doing is connecting with others and that they care and it means something. That's the real value. So that goes on whether you're a beginner or a veteran, if I could be so bold as to call myself.
I love that. This is a great way to actually start, you know, the Zoom meeting. Is the positivity already and the connections that are happening in the first question, you know? So that's awesome. Was it Lizzie, I think, that asked that question. Okay, I think the next one was Hazeline who raised her hand.
Hi, Hazeline.
Oh,
it's hard to hear you.
I had a question about you got started, just what you used in order to develop your song. Was there anything that stood out that really helped?
Hazeline, you're cutting out, Hazeline. Are you asking me how I started?
Yeah, like what stood out, or what did you use in order to really develop your craft?
What did I do to develop my craft? When I was a child, I wrote poems, and as a child, I, learned to play instruments. And then in my 20s, I put a band together. So that's been my journey. And for 10 years, I was in an indie band making albums. I guess the songwriting craft, doing this every day, people often say, well, how do you stay inspired? Well, clearly no human being can be inspired all the time. So I do a lot of sourcing others. For example, I took a book the other day to a session, Rumi, the 11th century Afghan poet who was a herder, you know, a nomad. His poetry still exists. And people were sucking their teeth in the session like, what are you doing with a 11th century nomad's poetry book? I opened it and it fell open on, I can't decide what I love the most. And immediately with the beat, I can't decide what I love the most. Your body or your mind, your spirit or your vibe. And Rumi, on his stone, on the Afghan plains 1,000 years ago, has made his way into a house music track. Now that to me is amazing and it's incredible. So the inspiration, I think, as well as staying open-minded and curious and observing and listening and all of that stuff, source other people too, and use other people's inspiration as a springboard. So I think really the collaboration is the most important thing with songwriting. For me, I don't know, maybe Kate Bush didn't collaborate, or there are a few, you know, greats who don't do that. But as a jobbing songwriter, so to speak, the collaboration is really where it happens, because some alchemy can occur if you enjoy each other on that day. And in that alchemy, which you can't predict, you can find ideas and run with it. Because have you noticed how you're up against the clock when you write, when you're with somebody? You do need to commit to an idea. And once you think, okay, I'm going to run with that idea, then you milk it. And by 6, 7 o'clock, hopefully, someone's at the mic making fireworks. That's the idea. Or crying.
Love that. Fantastic. Nomi, I think you were the next who raised a hand. Nomi?
Hi there. Yes, it's Noemi. Thank you so much for being here and speaking to us. And I've noticed that right away you spoke about sort of the other grown-ups and the real jobs, et cetera, or how the world would probably view themselves in relation to us creatives. And I think I'd like to really talk about that a little bit. If you could tell us sort of how do you keep navigating? I know that now, you know, you've got this amazing plethora of projects you've done, but initially it probably was tough to keep telling yourself, okay, I'm going to keep going with this. I'm going to keep thinking that I've got something to share. And, you know, between the sort of any sort of doubt or worry about the future, I suppose, how did you navigate that?
My first memory of that, when I was in a band, I was about 25, and you know, my friends were getting jobs and I was drifting and I was doing this thing that I was compelled to do. And I remember my sisters, or I think they were with some friends, and they laughed at me because I had this crappy, you know, garage rehearsal thing with all these dropouts, and there I was. And I remember screaming with frustration, like screaming at them, you will believe this, you know, and I just had this drive that I had to write songs. I won't go into it, but you know, you could argue in one sentence, a troubled childhood. The songwriting has been an absolute necessity to understand and rewrite how to be a human being in this world who counts and can make sense of their emotional journey through life. Music has been my vehicle for that, so I have had to. So it's been a necessity, and through that necessity has come the commitment, the perseverance, and the sanity. So there really hasn't been a choice, as far as I can tell. But like I say, 20 years later, I mean, sometimes I wonder, my God, has something like, because when I meet the grown-ups and I realise that I've been on a completely different trajectory, whereby to go through life with using your sensibilities and reinventing an idea and making a new idea it's just an extraordinary abstract way of living. But in a way, we are grown-ups too. We listen to each other and tell stories and really tune in to each other all the time as collaborators. So on that basis, I think it's a really rich experience for a way to work. I guess I'm literally thinking of lawyers and, you know, all these people at the school gates who are they don't know what to make of me, and they're not. Some of them, they have a slightly kind of what's the word, patronizing air, or they're in awe, but they can't make out what it is, because it is strange when you're a songwriter. You can't really explain it unless you are talking to another songwriter. Have you all experienced that? You can't convey what it is. It's weirdly lonely until you meet other songwriters, in a way.
I think so. Anything within the creative world, like acting, anything like that, I do a bit more of that, and the writing. So would you say then it's the drive and the self-belief until you sort of make it happen in a way?
Yeah, definitely the drive, because you have to keep going, and you eventually start to build little moments of success. You're building blocks of success until you can build a framework that you can actually exist by, and that has taken, in my case, years, but there's been enough success to have that framework to do this. But the music industry is changing so fast and furiously, and it's so crazy. I can't really paraphrase how to do that now, other than the conversation we had right at the beginning. Because the structure of success and the plethora of output. What are there, 40,000-50,000 songs output a day on Spotify? That's what we're up against. But then you get Adele's song will be #1 all over the world, or the Nas X or whatever. There are these hits that are in a complete league of their own, but the little fishes, there's so much of that. So again, it's being prolific and doing all sorts within the songwriting. I'm doing lots of different projects, and some are paying off and some aren't. So you have to think commercially, in the sense of those songs could work for sync. This is going to be in a musical. This artist is going places. So really, I do this because it's my job, if you like. But I'm really thinking across the board of how different songs can be applied to different revenues of income, without wanting to kind of lower the tone in terms of literally trying to make money out of songwriting, other than the creative side. But yeah, I hope I'm not talking too much versus questions.
No, that's a good question. That was actually a good question. Thank you, Naomi. I'll ask Jake. I think you had your hand raised next. Thanks, Jake.
I kind of have two questions. So the first one is, it's kind of involved with songwriting. Now, whenever I'm writing my lyrics and I have the tempo in my head and everything, and I know how it's gonna sound, and like I have everything envisioned, and I'm writing the lyrics, and I'm a rapper, so when I'm rapping it and everything, it'll sound like how I imagined it. But then when I'm listening back to a recording, it'll sound like either there's too little words or there's too many, and I'm trying to cram everything into one.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, when I'm doing that and I'm actually having my recording session, I'll put myself in the mindset where as if I'm one of someone from a fan base where I'm wanting to hear my music and I'm giving myself that confidence. But it's no matter what I do, and I'm listening back to myself as well, and it'll sound fine, but it's I can't find my voice.
So I think the key thing when you're writing is to learn to be objective, and so that you can hear what you have written objectively. Now it helps if you go, for example, out of the room and hear it through the room, or there are ways of hearing things objectively, or have a break and come back to it 10 minutes later, so that your ear is not attuned to the process, but that you hear the product. And then you may start to learn to spot the words that aren't working, that are clumsy or that stick out, and then you go in and you edit. You consider yourself a sculptor. You start to find.
There's 197 a fixture.
Sorry?
Yeah. So that's why Jimmy has sent his contact.
Sorry, Kim, do you wanna turn your mute on? Thank you.
So it's a case of when I'm sitting beside an artist and the lyrics are coming and we're doing this, and I type the lyric up on the screen, but all the time we're editing and switching words, because certain words sound better when they're sung than other words. and you start to tune into that sonic language that feels good, or the sonic language that feels clunky or outdated or whatever. So that is what you need to be really aware of. Be your own editor. Really turn up the dial on editing and be much tougher with yourself. And also, there's an inner voice, isn't there? There's the inner voice, the intuitive voice that instinctively knows. Listen so carefully to that voice. Sometimes you might ignore it because you think, oh, that voice is stupid, that voice doesn't know, or you get crowded out because you're distracted. But there is an innate correction system inside you, for want of a better putting it, but you need to listen super carefully and trust it. Start to trust it, because that is the driving kind of confidence. When you start to trust that inner voice, that's all you really have. But sometimes in a session, if somebody's giving me an atmosphere like they're undermining me, or their ego's bouncing around or whatever, sometimes you can start to not hear your own intuition because somebody, or you yourself, yeah, I don't know, you're losing the plot, or you're feeling insecure, or whatever that junk is there. But to be good at what we do is when the inner intuitive voice is solid and comfortable and listened to.
That actually made me realize a lot, because I was actually just in a situation where my old manager, for example, I just made a song for City TV with him, and I still haven't seen my royalties for my lyrics. And every time I'm in the studio, he'll either be talking, or even if he's on the same side as me where I'm recording, he'll try whispering and he'll tell other people not to, and he's just always doubtful of me. And that's most likely why I probably haven't found my voice, because I'm always consistently in that environment when I was
there
in the
you
studio.
go. And I'm sure we all know about that doubt, and it's a real obstacle to creativity. I mean, doubt is a good thing as well, because we need to question, but I just feel like, yeah, there is an inner child and an inner instinct, and that's all you have. What else, Jake Pastin, what else can you be other than yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
That's great. That's great. All right. Maya.
Yes. Oh, thank you, Emily. It's such a joy just to listen to you. And I have like a million questions, but I'm going to be practical because I would love to talk to you about like the philosophical parts, and that's where I get lost. But I'm now kind of in a situation where I need to be practical and I need to think about the business side of things. So my question for you is, what would you advise us to do as just songwriters and not the artists? So not like singer-songwriters. Are you investing in your promotion at all, just you as a songwriter, or are you moving towards the songs mostly and the artists? Like, what is the balance there in your opinion?
I think as a songwriter, I try to write with the best artists I can possibly find, because they're the vehicle for the promotion of the song. I mean, I occasionally go on Instagram to kind of, promote my own brand, if you like, but I really don't have time for that because I'm a mum too, and I just feel sick when I look at my phone too much, etc. So I have a manager and a publisher. They help. If I'm busy, I don't do any self-promotion. If my diary is just, that's it. But I do think as songwriters, the most important thing is to find a great singer, a great artist to collaborate with. Because if you're just writing with other songwriters, it's extremely hard to pitch songs. There's a flooded market, and I mean, it's just, yes, you might get a song away, but that is very difficult. I think keep going to gigs, checking out, find the best artists you can, and then team up. And if you can possibly get a manager to help raise your profile and get talking about you and so on. If you don't have a manager, I would say that is a really good thing to look into. And managers like managing songwriters because we're no trouble. It's a few emails, it's sessions, and then they get 20% of a publishing deal if they can convince a publisher. And a manager's far more likely to convince a publisher than we are ourselves.
Yeah, that's great. I had another thank you for that. That's really helpful. I wanted to also ask you, do you listen to new music, like top 40 or top whatever? Do you make yourself listen to that? What is your...
I think once a week I check out the top 20 in the UK and US charts. Occasionally I listen to New Music Friday, but I'd love to see some nodding heads that the standard is absolutely diabolical. Most of those tracks are unlistenable to, I think. So I really do try to get as prolific as possible for different types of inspiration. So I drop in and out. If I have a day without writing, I have the radio on, or I jump around and check out all kinds of things. And actually even see Billy Joel, part of a melody on a Billy Joel track sneaked in, and I had to alter one note. But, you know, so you can listen to old stuff, new stuff, whatever. We must find inspiration. When a new track comes out, what was it, Little Nas X with the Old Town? When those tracks, those runaway hits happen, it's quite often because they have mashed up unexpected genres, and the world says, wow, I haven't heard something like that before, because there are mountains of songs within genres. I mean, to write the best ballad, the best pure folk is well nigh impossible. But if you pull in and mix and do something extraordinary, that's when people say, you've got to listen to this.
Sorry, John, can you go on mute? Thank you.
Yeah, the unexpected. So I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, of course. I have like a bunch of questions, but I want to stop and let other people. Yeah. Thank you so much.
What we'll do is like we'll go around to everybody, and then at the end, you know, if we have a few more, if you have some time, we'll get back to you, Maya. Gallo. Hi, Gallo.
Hello.
Hi.
Okay, so you were talking about being your own editor, and when I get to that point in writing the song, I like to call it cutting the fat. So do you usually start cutting the fat when you're like starting it, like as you're writing it, or do you finish the whole song and then get to that point?
It's a mixture. I think it's really important when you're writing, especially with a collaborator, that you kind of welcome ideas, so that because have you noticed if somebody starts to knock down ideas too ferociously too soon, the flower within can wilt. So because creativity is born from encouragement. Like I think all children, for example, if encouraged, are extremely creative. Same with us. So in the beginning of the session, it's a really welcoming and encouraging environment, and therefore there's a lot on the page. And then you start to fine tune, and then you start always keep singing back, continually sing back as you write, and get the artist to sing back. Because I've been in sessions when the artist is like, oh, you know, I'll save my voice till the end of the day, and then they can't sing it. It's not sitting in the right place when they project it. So get the right actual tonality, octave, key as early on as you can. You know, get the artist to commit to these little ideas, these little melody sections, and hear it. And then quite often when we actually start to cut the vocal, which is usually around 5 or 6 p.m., there's another editing process. I'm sitting at the Pro Tools here recording, the artist is behind me, and as they sing, I'm like, you know what, that doesn't sound right, and we stop and 5 minutes on a correction of a lyric or so. So cutting the fat, you know, it goes all the way. And if the artist is passing through, you're up against the clock. Ideally, you then have a day or even weeks, and you say, you know, you need to come back in because we can make that bit better. So it's continuous. But yeah, I would say at the beginning of the session, be as generous as possible. One thing I do, which might be helpful to collaborators, when an artist comes here, I talk to them, I can write, I can type super fast, and I type as fast as they're talking, and we have a conversation for a good hour when they arrive. And I'm asking questions, and, you know, we're just discussing stuff, and I type to get the way they express themselves and what they may say. And this kid who was in the other day, he said, oh, he'd just run away from home, actually. Great, I was so glad, sorry to be so. But anyway, he said I had to run away to get close to my parents. I had to get away from them to get closer to them. So I had to run away from you to get close to you. Had to be alone, run a dirty mile or two. Yeah, I had to do a few things on my own. The point being, he said it. He said the title of the song. Has anyone had that thing where a lyric comes at you, like a 3D melody comes at you as you say the lyric? That's fantastic. Yes. I love it when that happens. That's the magic. Yeah. I mean, Joni Mitchell, you know, she just sang what she wrote, and I think it's really powerful when lyrics give you their melody. Because a lot of top lining is when you get the melody first and then you shoehorn in the lyric, which is super pop and it can work great. But maybe I'm more old school, and I like that. I find, from my own experience, there's more soul when the lyric is arguing for its own melody. It's telling you how, you know,
how it wants to feel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Gallo. Mona Sade. Hi, Mona.
I'm looking for Mona on the screen. I can't see Mona.
Is Mona? Are you there, Mona? Okay. We're gonna go to John. You there, John?
Me? Yeah.
Hey. Okay.
I'm sorry for the noise in the background.
Oh, okay, go ahead, John. You ask a question.
I'm sorry. So Emily, before I ask a question, I was just gonna say I'm a big fan of you. I'm just saying. So, how do you come up with a melody for writing songs?
How did you say?
Yeah, how?
Yeah, so like I say, sometimes I think all musical people have a sort of basic intuitive melodic thing going on. But actually, I think it's helpful sometimes with melodies to picture them like a shape. Because it's important to, melodies are great when they're bold. They can equally be very good compressed, which is the kind of fashion, if you like, now as well. But if you actually picture the shape, you might think, hey, I need to lift it there or go diving down there. So get visual in your mind and it will help move your voice to notes. Also, standing up is a good way to get melodies moving because the energy in your body changes the way you sort of think and sing. Find out what the artists, where their sweet spots are. I think, yeah, melody, I mean, most artists come in here, they do have an instinctive melodic thing going on. I think the lyric tends to be the bit that I help more on. But I think the more creative you can be with melody, I mean, imagine it, 50,000 songs a day. How many unique melodies? Is it infinite? It must be infinite, the order of notes. But we are treading on each other's toes. And you know the 7-note rule, that's copyright infringement. So you need to change a 6th note or a 5th if you think you're onto somebody else's melody. But it's extremely difficult, especially with pop when you have 4 chords rotating or 3 or 2 chords. You know, so try to be as bold as possible and then rein it in with melody, but also soulful and true. It's all very well saying this. I mean, it's one thing to say it, it's another to do it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Who was that? Ashley? No, was it Ashley?
Hello.
Hi.
So I have a question. We've been talking about like writing original music, and everything that's been asked and everything that's been said has been super awesome. But someone kind of facing this challenge, I've kind of been wondering, is there such a thing as going too far when you're tasked with doing a cover?
What do you mean by too far?
Like, I feel like this is kind of like a conversation that has come up among my colleagues and I still haven't found any kind of like middle ground or general consensus. Like, some people feel like when you do a cover, you should kind of stick close to what the original is and pay more of like homage to it. Other people feel like when you do a cover, you need to split as far away from the original as possible to put your own stamp on it. Like,
have you noticed how annoying it is when people do covers and they don't do it the melody justice, or they go off piece with the melody? You're like, well, what did you do that for? Because it's not as good as the original. I mean, Bob Dylan does it to his own songs, which is quite strange. But I personally, if I love a song and then somebody covers it and they change the melody a little bit in their own way and it's not as good, it's just annoying. But if you can better the melody, I mean, why not? I don't know what that would be. But I think, I mean, we did a cover of Dock of the Bay for Primary Wave. My publisher owned Dock of the Bay. Apparently, he died about the next day after recording that song. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, the original singer, I mean. Anyway, we did a cover of Dock of the Bay, and my singer was doing ad-libs, and actually he's very good and soulful, and it kind of worked, but he was sailing really close to the wind to just doing, I mean, who can better a great song? I don't know the answer, Ashley. I think just really just check in that you're not doing a
disservice to the song.
Yeah, because if you are covering a song, why not, pay respect to those decisions that the songwriter made. I mean, that's why you want to cover the song, because you love those decisions. Someone's walking in here, yeah? Yes. 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 Violin lesson for my daughter. Yes, so I hope that is your answer, Ashley. I don't go in for covers myself because obviously I'm trying to kind of write original material.
Yeah, totally agreed. Like, I don't do covers, but I've kind of been tasked with doing a cover, so I'm like,
well, but Spotify are churning out covers, I mean, they can be very bland versions, because I mean, who can ever really copy some of the greats? And it's a very interesting exercise, because you realize what is the actual writing underneath their interpretation if they also express themselves in a particular way. So there's a very interesting exercise there, and obviously one worth doing to learn how to up our game.
Cool. Thank you.
I wanted to just I was just thinking about the Pet Shop Boys cover of Always on My Mind by Elvis. And I'm not even sure that Elvis actually wrote that. I mean, or Elvis's team wrote that track. I mean, I think he even covered that off somebody. So that was a cover of a cover. But the actual way that the Pet Shop Boys did it was actually, I think, to me, I love the Pet Shop Boys version because it was just so out there. I mean, you listen to the Elvis version and you listen to the Pet Shop Boys version, you think, how did they even think about the arrangement or arranging it that way?
So it sounds like they have done a cover that improves the song, and of course that does happen. And actually, that's incredible. I mean, look, Bon Iver's, what's that song called when that girl covered it? I mean, she did a brilliant job. What's it called, that Bon Iver song? Sorry, I can't remember the name of the song. Anyway, it's an example of a cover that was very good and different. So actually,
huh? Was it Case of You?
No.
Was
it Skinny Love?
Skinny Love. And actually, it's interesting that, Ashley, if you're still there, this is a good question, because as we discuss it, we realise you can make better a cover. That happens too. Aaron, were you asking a question earlier?
Hi, yeah. What's your process like whenever you collaborate with other artists? What do you like to do? Do you have a system?
Yeah, I think generally what happens, like I say, I talk and listen hard to how they express themselves. And Sometimes I work before they come and just do a brain dump and try and do a stream of consciousness without any judgment, and just write anything that comes into my head. And if a good word comes up, I might delve in and open that up and make something of that, so that I have a backup if they are not in a creative mood. And then the discussion happens, and then we look through and talk about what matters and why we're writing a song. Why would we write a song today? What's it going to be about? Meanwhile, Ant, my husband, might be getting a groove going, and then somebody might sing a melody. Oh, that feels cool, and you're off. You know, so it's about catching a wave. Sometimes, rarely, but sometimes that wave is very hard to get on, and that might be the chemistry or who knows why. But generally speaking, you catch the wave, the melody begins, the concept is brewing, the discussion is happening, and you're extremely observant, because it might be in the muttering that you actually hear the gold. And I mean, a cleaning lady came into a studio the other day, and she was holding a new loo brush, and she opened the door of the studio and she said, "I've never met one of you before," looking at the loo brush. It was this very strange loo brush. Well, she gave us the title of the song. She said, "I've never met one of you before." But anyway, well, regardless. So that was the cleaning lady. Anyway, but it could be anything. So you are so observant, and then you start to, and who said it? You know, you sculpt, you cut the fat, you're a potter. You are a craftsperson. You do not have the answers, but you just allow and allow and allow and encourage and create fun and get the energy in the mood. And if you're stalling, you take a break, and all of this stuff, which you all know about collaborating, you know. But I think kindness is so important, because, you know, we are, I don't know about you guys, but I mean, I can, you know, very easily start to feel, I mean, less so as I get older, because I really don't care what people think anymore, thank God. But there have been many times if someone isn't kind, when I just die inside, and you just can't create. So kindness is key to the process.
So you always like to be live with them, kind of face to face?
Oh, I mean, I was doing some Zoom writing. That can work if people are used to writing. I found it very difficult with inexperienced writers, if you like, because there does come a point when, you know, it is not a slog. It can be hard work if you're fathoming a lyric or cracking a nut, and some newcomer writers don't know about that, you know, what's the word, tenacity or perseverance. So I think what happens with experience is not the value of the idea improves over time, but the toolkit is sharp. The tools are sharp, and you know what tools to use. So, because some artists come in, they think, oh, I must have the answers because I've done so many songs and written some hits. No, I don't have the answers, but what I do have is the ability to get the best out of them, and vice versa, if they will allow.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. And just to clarify, the loo brush, just for our American audience, you probably all know what it is anyway. It's a toilet brush. But you know, is it?
Yes, of course, the toilet brush, of course. That's where the song title comes.
Yeah. I want to see if Mona's back. Mona, you there?
Yes, I am so sorry. I had a phone call.
No worries. You got
all
the
right.
You got the floor.
Yes, sorry guys about that. Here we go. Okay. All right. Thank you so much for all that you were saying before. I totally agree with that. I was just like sitting here nodding my head. So I wanted to ask what you would think about nowadays promotion. If I'm self-promoting, I'm still in the process of writing, but when that's done, I like to think of the business side, even though I'm not all for it, but I have to do it. So what would you think is the best way on how to do it? Do you pay for marketing, and what kind do you think that is the best?
I mean, it is baffling if I give two extremes. Adele does no promotion and is the most famous artist in the world. And then you have artists on the sort of lower rungs who are Instagramming every day, thinking people want to see their faces every day in a different position. I think there's a kind of collective innate boredom creeping into Instagram. I know that artists who feel they have to do this continual self-promotion are actually sick of it. So I wonder whether we're on the front line of a slight skew on that. But I mean, currently, as you know, TikTok is one way to get songs moving. I mean, children seem to be the A&R people now. Children are deciding what goes. But you have to forgive me because I am established, so to speak, in the sense that I have these artists arriving here with my agents doing that job for me. I'm not actually an expert to explain how to self-promote right now, but obviously social media helps with that. But but I do find it extremely baffling because I, for one, I'm overwhelmed by how much there is to do in terms of self-promotion using social media. It's draining and it's hard, and if you can get your head around that, that is a miracle. But we had, was it Ranisha, who was it, who said that they could help with that digital promotion? And like I said at the front of our talk, one thing you guys must get out of this week is to really help each other, because there will be connections made that will forward your careers as a result of this, because this is how it works. I mean, I am learning too, and meeting all of you is amazing for me too. These are connections. So yeah, I don't really know what to say about the business side other than to find a manager. That is key, because they can do a lot for you. That's their job. We should ideally be lost in our creative world.
That's literally where I thrive. I actually feel declined when I start to move to the admin side.
I know, it's horrible. I know exactly how you feel.
Not for me. But I need to do it in the beginning in order to gain traction and all of that. So that's the only reason, or else, wow, I wish I loved it. Honestly, I wish I did, because that would have been awesome.
If you can put an hour inside a day and put another hat on and be disciplined and treat it as a job, you will make progress. And just keep cross-hatching, you know, it's all of that, those extraordinary connections. As we say, we don't know where they lead, but do it every day for an hour and search your creativity. And I think possibly better to do it at the end of the day. Don't use the front of the day when you are waking up to this world and you have something to say and something to do. Save the admin and the business to when you're actually tired and you're going to do it. You're going to give yourself an hour after dinner or whatever it is. Don't you think, guys? Because I do think the front of the day is really important for creativity.
Yeah.
Well, that's my version. Maybe some people are nocturnal, but either way, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I can be creative. Like sometimes I design. I also do clothing. So sometimes I design in the morning. Sometimes, like, even when it's just strokes of inspiration, whenever they come, I have to be ready to receive and write down. But I understand what you're saying. But for me, the admin side, I have to do it in the morning personally, because I absolutely hate it. So if I get it out of the way, I feel free. I feel free if I get it out of the way.
Well, that's good. That is totally valid. That's your version. But make sure you do it every day. Yeah, that's when we start to make progress.
If I can pipe in, Mona, if you want to reach out to me, I can give you some strategies for automating that system.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else as well, if you want to just reach out, you know, I mean, it's literally just a few strategies and things like that. We can.
Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
No, I hope it's all helpful. Something crazy has happened to me.
What is it?
Well, I've got a Broadway musical has been commissioned, and I'm going to be going to New York next year to work on it. This is a new territory for me, but I wrote thank you, because it's amazing, because I wrote 25 gospel songs with some friends. I don't know anything about musicals. I know The Wizard of Oz, that's it. Anyway, we wrote 25 gospel songs imagining Moses freeing the slaves on the plantation south. That was our loose framework. and we went nuts for 2 solid weeks picturing this musical. And we wrote, anyway, we recorded these songs, and my husband called me a gospel bore because I was getting home and banging on about, I was so hyped and I couldn't sleep for 2 weeks with this creative output. Anyway, then Black Lives Matter happened, then COVID happened, and then 6 months later I sent all of the songs to my publisher in New York. So look, I don't know what to do with this, but the next day, Andrew Lloyd Webber's company on Broadway said they want the musical.
That's so exciting.
Because they've never heard it back to front. The songs written, now we're 2 years later now, wait, the book writer, it's a long old process, but whatever, I won't bore you with the details. But my point is that we were unfettered. We did not for 1 second imagine anything would happen. And we visualized the result. And I think that's a really key thing with songwriting. That when you write, you visualize 50,000 people listening. You visualize the success. You visualize the fact that it can change a life, a song. And try to channel what is so powerful in music. Because it was Ed O'Brien, the bass player in Radiohead, he said to me once, music is the greatest art, arguably the greatest art. And we are its humble servants. That's how he put it. And I think, I really believe that at any time in this life that you are able to make music, how gifted are we all to be able to do that when you think of how much suffering there is in the world?
Yeah.
I mean, and so to be so grateful. And despite how hard this industry is and everything you're saying, Mona, and all of us know the slog, that bit, but we are extremely lucky. And that is what you take into any songwriting session, is that grace.
Yeah.
And then you fail dismally and then you cry that night because the song's crap. No, but the point being, you hold that grace, and then the rest is like, whatever. What will be. Some of it's out of our control. But I told you that story, because I'm so excited because it's a new thing. But also just the beauty of not having any pressure of what if when we were writing, like no A&R, no brief, just forget it, just allow.
Mm-hmm.
That's brilliant. That's really inspiring, Emily. Thank you so much for that. It's like, can you believe it's nearly the top of the hour? I mean, this hour has just like went by really quickly. I want to see if I can really get 2 really quick questions in, if you don't mind, Emily.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Thank you, Emily and Anne, again. I appreciate it.
No worries. Andrew.
My question is a little bit more on the depressing side, unfortunately. I suffer quite badly from imposter syndrome, and actually suffered with it quite badly the last time I was in the studio. Even though I'd written the song with Ashley with Ian at the time, I felt that I didn't belong there. I felt that I shouldn't be there, and that I should be somewhere else. And that sometimes happens with me when I collaborate. I wonder if it's ever happened with you.
Yes, it has. And I think that's what I'm trying to say, because we are sensitive people. That's partly what draws us to being songwriters. So, and we bruise easily and so on. But this is the voices in the head. You can even write about it. So when I say allow, if you try and shut that voice down, it will only get louder. So welcome the fucker in. Welcome fuck face Andrew in. And so, okay, sit with me today and come on this ride with me, all my vulnerabilities, because if you try to force it out, it just gets worse. And if you allow that and laugh at it and accommodate it, because you're human and that's natural, because you are seeking something that actually has a lot of pressure around it in a way. So just really, all I can say, Andrew, is write a song about it. The voice, I don't know. But do not force it out, because if it needs to be there, then have the humility and the self-knowledge and intelligence to allow it. But just you may find that voice will get quieter and quieter and quieter. And actually, those voices with me, some bastard last week, excuse my language, I don't know, I'm getting Tourette's for some reason. We had someone in last week who was just disrespecting me. He just was not collaborating. And then anyway, something shifted in the day, and then it was all go. But that, for hours, I was totally ignored. And do you know something? I didn't care. I didn't have imposter syndrome. What I thought was, you are the fool. Because I know I have a lot to offer and can make things great today if you'll only let me. But he was too unevolved to know that. So therefore what I'm saying is, in fact, I've forgotten, I don't know what I'm saying now, but I hope I've made some sense.
Yeah, no, I usually make songs about the stuff that I find difficult in my life, but that's the one thing I've never faced him down. So he and I are going to sit down and have a little chat. And, we'll come up with something.
Don't struggle with it. It's natural and common. Gallo, did you have a question? You did, but do you agree, guys, that it's so normal for us writers to have that going on, and over time I think those voices definitely just wither.
Amen. Thanks, Andrew. All right, we got the last question from Amy. Hi, Amy.
Hiya. Hi, Ian.
Hey.
Hi, Emily. Hi, everyone. My question for you, Emily, is... Right, it's gone out my head now. What was it? I did have a question for you, and now I'm like, oh, that was it. There we go. Do you have like a ritual or a routine or a method that helps you to be open to creation? Like, do you do yoga or anything like that, meditation?
I walk a lot. Yeah, and I quite often don't listen to music. I just observe and just try and kind of, that whole thing that COVID taught us to, the beauty around us and so on, and to be grateful. So I do walk to try and clear my mind. And I also sit down with a computer before a session and just hear what's coming up and just write it. I read a lot. I think reading is really important for a songwriter, because lyrics, words, ideas, all of that. And when I watch films, I quite often have a notebook and write down if somebody says something in a particular way. So those are some methods. Yeah, and obviously I do a bit of yoga and all of that, swimming. I mean, at my age, I really do need to look after myself as well. The whole physical thing is just a total necessity. So yeah.
Right, thank you.
Yeah.
I had another question as well. Have you been in like a situation where you've written what you felt that was like a really good song, but then whoever you were like writing for or writing with, they weren't like digging it, they weren't like on the same wavelength? And if you had, like, what did you do?
Yeah, that can happen. And actually, funnily enough, they may, if you know it's good, it will come back round. And I've noticed this has happened a few times with an artist. They don't realize it's good. They're in another place, or they're on another vibe, or they think something about. But you as a songwriter, if you know it's good, continue to plug the song, send it to agents, friends, whatever, because if you know it's good, it will come back round and find its journey.
Okay.
Yeah, I have found that. So guys, I just wanted to say, I know I have been talking a lot, but I really have enjoyed the fact that you're there and I can share what I have learned, and I hope it's been helpful, because
no, it's been so inspiring, and I'm so happy that there's so many people who are here today, Emily, and thank you so much for your time. And this is fantastic to have you speak and from your experience, and Yeah, thank you so much for coming down and spending the hour with us.
It's a pleasure. I wish everyone the best of luck and to just keep writing. It's in the proliferation, write all as many songs, and the great ones come.
Fantastic. Listen, on that note, we're gonna call it the day. Everybody else, if you can stay on, and I'm gonna leave Emily to disappear into her home.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Take care, Emily. Ciao. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Wow. Okay. How did everybody feel about that?
I was speaking my language.
I love it.
Put the thumbs up. Yeah.
She was awesome.
Great.
Great.
Yeah. I thought she would really sort of pinch, really be there in terms of speak your language and speak our language as musicians and songwriters, because she has been there, she's done that, she is actually at the forefront of things now, and she has suffered as well, like we have suffered and we are suffering. I call it suffering because in a way it is sometimes, so it's just so great to hear her stories. And she is also a great teacher. I mean, I've always known her to be somebody who just loves to explore different things and just to give her experiences and to talk about it. And she speaks so well as well. So